But I had this horrible experience. I'm this like, kid, Christian kid, grew up in this like, super red, white, and blue, stay out of trouble family in the rural South. I get to Yale, and within 3 days, I'm calling my grandmother. I'm like, Big Mama, Big Mama. She said, baby, what's wrong? What's wrong, baby? Oh, Big Mama, they smoking the marijuana cigarettes, Big Mama. She's like, oh, baby, just pray. It's gonna be all right, just pray. Like, I've been praying and they still smoking the cigarette. And she says, don't worry. She says, just tell your professors. I said, they smoking them too. They smoking them too. This is a terrible place they've sent me. This is a true story. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go and work in the community where people probably have some sense. And, now, who's been in New Haven, Connecticut? Okay. How far from Yale's campus is the ghetto? Huh? Well, like 3 blocks? Like 4 blocks? That's far, right. Yeah, exactly, just over the wall. So, right, I mean, literally just like, there it is. Hello, poor people. So you could literally stand on one corner and see Yale and the housing projects, right or wrong. And sure enough, I go over there, do volunteer work or whatever, because you have the little campus center for the volunteering. You go over there, and guess what the kids over there are doing? Smoking the same marijuana cigarettes. So this was horrifying, and I told them that Jesus sees you, and this is sinful and wrong, but didn't go over very well. So, but what I quickly realized after being on campus for a couple of months, you have 18-year-old kids on the campus doing drugs, and you have 18-year-old kids in the housing projects doing drugs. But there was a difference. When the kids on campus got in trouble or went too far, the system would respond very aggressively to get them in rehab, right? We literally had something on campus called mental hygiene. It was basically a detox center. I can't make this stuff up. There was something called mental hygiene, a detox center on the campus. So when kids broke down and fell out in the halls and did all this crazy stuff that they did, they would pause their finals, like literally pause their grades, let them get their act together. They would sort of quietly withdraw. Then they would, some of these kids, go to Europe or someplace, and then they would come back and they would just hit the pause button again, and they could just finish up their curricula. And these kids would go on to become doctors, lawyers. In the case of the last administration, the President of the United States. I mean, these kids. Right, I mean, I tell the truth. That's how I get in trouble. But look, these kids would go on. But the kids who were doing the same drugs, literally within eyesight of each other, would go to prison. And there were kids I was working with that I saw get taken out of housing projects in their underwear in front of everybody, who would wind up with 7-year sentences, 12-year sentences, 15-year sentences. Some kids they would be 14 years old and get essentially a 14. I mean, it would be 18 years old and would get a 14-year bid, almost as long as they've been alive, doing the same drugs as other kids did. And I thought this was outrageous. And you would see these police cars go past the campus, go past Skull and Bones to get these poor kids. And I talked to my dean about it, and I said, this is outrageous. It's not acceptable. You're teaching us this equal justice, equal protection, all this sort of stuff, and I can't walk out the front door of the law school without seeing the complete opposite of what you're talking about. And my dean said, well, Van, what you have to understand is, those kids in the housing project, they're drug dealers. They're drug pushers. Our kids are experimenting with drugs. And I said, I don't see the experimentation exception in the statutes you have me reading. And I think something is desperately wrong with your system. And so I spent about 10 years on the left side of Pluto politically in reaction to that stuff. And since people made a big deal about that, but I have to say I'm as proud of that work as I am of any other work that I've done. Because you can only have your heart broken when you're really in love in the first place, you see. Nobody's walking around here crying about somebody who broke up with them that they didn't like, right? Right? If somebody's crying and boo-hooing, it's because they actually like the person. I was heartbroken and outraged because I actually believed the stuff my dad taught me growing up. And I thought somebody had sold me a bill of goods, and I was pissed off about it. And I wish more people would be pissed off about it, frankly, because it was out of that heartbreak that I got a chance to do some of the work that I'm most proud of. I got a chance to document, expose, and challenge some of the most horrific police brutality anywhere in the country. We had a police officer in San Francisco, a Bay Area named Mark Ndai, who had killed 2 unarmed African-American men and gotten away with it and was still on the force harassing people. We were able to get him fired. We had a prison building boom going on in the state of California. By the time we got finished with them, we had closed 3 youth prisons in California, cut the prison population by 30% for children behind bars. We had started the first organization for transgender sex workers in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. This is in the late 90s when nobody would even touch the issue of transgender rights. But at the same time, the sex work around the transgender folks was fueling a big part of San Francisco's economy as people were coming from all around the world to purchase sex from transgender people, and yet, and adding to our economy, and yet those people were being brutalized on the streets and in the jails, and being often raped by police officers, and nobody wanted to talk about it. Well, I'm proud that we talked about it, and we created an organization. Yeah, thank you. We created the first organization. It was called Transaction. See, I'm clever. We created an organization called Transaction to organize transgender sex workers for their rights, and we were able to reform the San Francisco Police Department. I could go. I'm not just bragging on myself, but what I'm saying is that these tough fights that you just heard, these people who are breaking their backs in tough communities where hope is hard to come by, where often people who are this talented, rather than stay and make a difference, will get the heck out of there at the first opportunity. Like these fights actually, I think, and these fellows produce a certain kind of leadership that I think our country needs more of, not less. And I burned out banging my head against the mass incarceration system, and eventually decided I would rather focus on what to do when people came back home, and that's where a lot of the green job stuff came from. And for me, by the way, the green job stuff came out of the justice work initially. Let's just be clear about that. I just could not see myself telling Pookie or Snoopy or Shanae or Josue that you are wrong to be in this neighborhood with your economic activity hurting people every day, right? You're selling drugs, you're stealing cars, you're hitting people upside the head. You're wrong. Your economic activity hurts people. You have to stop doing it. And then tell that same child that they're a hero and a success story when they go to work in a polluting factory or Walmart where they're poisoning and polluting everybody, or benefiting from the exploitation of poor people in somebody else's country. I didn't see how that could be a success story. And just like I wouldn't accept it as an excuse from them in the neighborhood when they were saying, oh, I have to do this, I don't have any other economic opportunities, I would say the same thing to the rest of the economy. I said we have to have a consistent measure. Just because you're in the underground economy and you're in the above ground economy, if you're hurting the community, you're hurting the community. And so we had to find something. We had to find something that we could be proud of 360. And that was this idea of green jobs, that we could fight pollution and poverty at the same time by taking some of these young folks off the street corners and training them to put up solar panels and audit homes, and that everything that is good for the environment is a job. Solar panels don't put themselves up. Wind turbines don't manufacture themselves. That there was a way to fight global warming and beat the global recession at the same time by putting people to work. And that vision is a vision that, for me, is as much about a civil rights agenda for the new century as anything else. The civil rights agenda should be equal protection and equal opportunity. In the ecological age, equal protection means no more Katrinas, no more poisoning children and polluting poor folks because they happen to not have enough money to get away from the incinerators and get away from the dunks. Equal protection, yes, but also equal opportunity. We can't live in a society where we have eco-apartheid, ecological apartheid, where some communities have the hybrid cars and the organic food and the solar panels, and 10 minutes away you got people living next to dumps and incinerators. That's eco-apartheid, and it's just as wrong as the apartheid of the last century. And so that was my passion. And then I got a phone call, just to deal with the elephant in the room. And wound up working in the White House for 6 months. Now I'm in this very strange position as somebody with a very colorful political background who has been on the margin of the margin, who then for 6 months was on the inside of the inside. And it's a strange thing. I just want to talk to the fellows. It's a strange thing that can happen to you in this work. First of all, in my case, I have this experience where people come up to me all the time. Airports, malls, public restrooms. Now, the mean people, they don't say anything. It's the nice people who you have to really worry about, because you'll be, I mean, literally, I'll be in the airport, the public restroom, and somebody will be walking by, and they'll be like, aren't you the green guy? I'm like, this is some post-racial America. I'm like, yes, in some strange way, sir, I am the green guy. And then it's always, I saw what they did to you. It was horrible. Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. It was the most horrible. And then I have to counsel the people. I'm like, it's okay, hang in there. You'll make it, I'm like, why am I counseling him? It happened to me, but it goes this whole thing. And I think what you have to understand, I see it very differently. I see it very differently. I got a chance to spend 6 months in the White House, which is 6 months longer than you, okay? Just don't feel too sorry for me here, okay? So I got a chance to spend 6 months in the White House, and I got a chance to go behind the curtain in a way that people with my politics and background very rarely do. And I got a chance to see exactly how much peril this country is in. I mean, you think you love your country now, and you do, but hold it in your arms for 6 months. Read all the reports, brief the people ahead of you in line about the totality of what's going on. Start recognizing the patterns and realize what a fragile place we have arrived at as a country. I mean, I was the target of the politics of hatred, but I left more committed to the politics of hope than ever. I am, at this point in my life, absolutely convinced that the road forks for us very, very dramatically. Things are going to be either very good in this country or they're going to be very bad in this country. And I am, first of all, I'm proud to serve. I would tell anybody, and I say this as often as I can, especially for the younger people, if you had the opportunity to serve for 6 months, for 6 weeks, and it was in the contract that you would have exactly the kind of rough exit that I had, do it. Do it. Because when you get out, your level of understanding and commitment and seriousness will be at a completely different level, and it is for me.